Yeah, so we'll start with the pork loin. I brought in basically a whole bone-in pork loin like we use at the restaurant.
Yeah.
We get in really high quality, like pasture-raised pork at the restaurant. And ideally, we like to let it hang for a little bit.
Okay.
Dry age just slightly.
Nice.
So you have kind of that flavor concentration, and all of the porkiness kind of really comes through.
Very cool. You brought some tools with you, I see.
Just a little couple things, just to help me cut off a pork chop. So you can see like the spine is still on, and you can see on the other side there's the ribs.
Nice.
So whenever we cut pork chops at the restaurant, we'll just using the bone saw, saw through the bones very gently, and then slice through to get our nice pork chop.
All right, so let's get into this.
Yeah,
show me how to whack this thing up.
So yeah, you can see you really want to follow in between the ribs.
Okay.
So we'll start about right here.
Wow.
And then that's really all we need to cut through with this.
All right, so it didn't look like you needed that much muscle to do that.
No,
anybody can
not
kind
a
of
ton,
handle that.
yeah. And then from here.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah. Look at that meat.
You can see that nice marbling,
yeah.
Nice dark flesh. You can tell that this is a really healthy animal that lived a really good life. The darker meat means that it was out in the field foraging for stuff, running around, so you get that intermuscular blood flowing.
So much more flavor, so much better for the environment, so much better for you too.
Yes.
Now, where do you get a lot of your meat from?
So we get most of our pork from a farm called Country Time Farms.
Okay, is that local?
It is. It's in Berks County.
Perfect.
Our farmer, his name is Paul, and he's been doing this for a very long time, really good at what he does.
It's always good to know your farmer's name.
Yes, and he's, all the farmers we use, we have a handful of different farmers.
Okay.
Most everything I brought today is from a local farm in and around the Philadelphia area.
I was just going to ask if you would leave the skin on.
We will not for this application. Okay. If we were going to do a roast where we were like cooking in the oven, then it's good because you're going to get that skin nice and crispy.
Yeah.
But cooking in the pan, you're not going to be able to really get it
it just stays tough. Now, would you utilize that skin and make cracklins or something like that?
Yes, we make cracklins or chicharrones.
I see you're being very aggressive with the salt, which I appreciate.
Very aggressive. All of the fat and stuff is going to really soak up a lot of it.
And that's a thick chop.
It is a thick chop, so you want to make sure this is nicely seasoned. And we'll finish it with a little like sea salt, but you want to make sure that you get a decent amount of salt to start.
Any pepper?
I typically don't like it just because I'm going to cook it in the cast iron pan for an extended period of time. Okay. It can get like a little bit too hot.
Like a burnt taste almost?
Yeah, a little too burnt.
I appreciate that. You're really thinking things through.
Yeah, so when we're not using, like you could totally, if you were making this at home, use a backyard barbecue grill and it would turn out great. But if you were looking to do something more inside, I think the cast iron pan is most definitely the way to go.
Really conducts heat so well.
Yeah, you're going to conduct heat really well, and all of this nice fat on the pork is going to render out, and you're going to get a nice, consistent like crispiness across the pork chop.
Yeah, that sounds great.
So, since we did hang it for a little bit, along the edges there may be a little bit of dried skin or dried flesh. So we just want to peel that off and make sure that there's no like chewy pieces.
Oh, it gets chewy?
Yeah, if it dries out too much, all you have to do is really just slice a little bit off and then you're good to go.
So we put this in the cast iron skillet. Do we need to let it rest or do anything before it goes in?
No, I think as long as you let the salt kind of penetrate a little bit before you throw it in, you can see it's already starting to leach out a little bit of the liquid. Yeah, you can. So that way you know the salt's doing its thing.
Perfect.
And we can get this in.
How hot do you want the pan to be? Really hot or sort of medium?
No, not really hot, because you're looking for a nice, slow, consistent caramelization across it. Okay, because it is so thick. Yeah, I would say definitely like a medium, pretty standard medium heat.
Okay, so it's kind of low and slow.
Yeah. Because you want this cast iron pan to really build a crust across the entire bottom. And as you add it in, applying pressure to it, so you make sure that there's an even.
So could you use like a brick or a press or something for that, or do you want to sit and kind of just do it with your fingers gently?
Yeah, you definitely could if you had that available. I don't think it's necessary.
Gotcha.
We didn't add any oil to the pan or anything.
I noticed that.
Because all of the residual fat from the pork chops is going to kind of release out into the pan.
There's quite a bit.
And that's going to be your cooking fat.
Right. And I guess with a well-seasoned cast iron pan, you don't really have to worry about it sticking.
All right, so now that the pork chop's been in the pan for a little bit, using a little spatula, you just want to check and see how it's going, see how fast it's caramelizing. And you can see we're getting some decent caramelization already. And I like to move the pork chop around in the pan. Just because cast iron holds its heat pretty well. But you want to always make sure that you're not just keeping the pork chop in one spot.
Looking for those hot spots. Almost like on a grill.
Exactly.
Nice. And then you're kind of creating more fond in different areas too, which is nice.
Spreading the love.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're about halfway done on this side. So you can see as the pork chops cook, this is getting really close. You want that nice, slow caramelization, so you build up tons and tons of flavor.
And then you're cooking the inside nice and gently too.
Yes, and the bone-on is going to help as well, keeping the inside nice and juicy.
It smells incredible too.
And as you can see, I flipped over the pork chop now.
Cool.
I'm cooking along the same process as we did on the other side. And then the pork chop is getting pretty close.
Now do you cook this all the way through, or you like to leave it about medium?
I like to leave it medium well-ish. But if you prefer it well done, then it's not really a thing. As long as if you buy really nice pork and you leave the bone on and you treat it well, then it's going to taste good regardless.
Absolutely,
I personally have just done this so much that I can just kind of give it a press and see where it's at. But if you're not feeling that comfortable with it at home, you can always use an thermometer and looking for an internal temperature of anywhere between 140 and 150.
So that'll give you that right about medium well. And it'll continue to cook a little more
it
as
will,
it rests also.
It will continue to cook a little bit more as it rests. And that's what we're going to do now. We're going to go ahead and pull this guy out, let him rest. And then, so after we let our pork chop rest for a little bit, we're going to go ahead and trim off the bone.
Do you serve it at the restaurant with the bone on the plate?
Yes.
Because, you know, some of us, not me, but some people like to, you know, get in there, gnaw on the bone a little bit.
So you can see here that it's a nice...
Oh, it's perfect.
Nice cook.
Look how juicy that is too.
You still have a ton of natural juices.
That's exactly how I like it. Just like the teeniest little bit of pink in the middle.
And then...
Amazing.
So with this, we're going to glaze it with a little bit of molasses and miso glaze on the plate. So we get miso from a company called White Rose Miso.
This
Are they
was
local?
Made
with local as well. We get it from the same company that we get our vinegars from.
Very nice.
So once we have our pork chop cooked, transfer it onto the plate. Top it with just a little bit of the glaze.
I imagine that's got a strong flavor to it.
It does. You have like the bitter sweetness from the molasses. You have the super umami from the miso.
What kind of miso?
It is a sunchoke miso, so they use both barley and rice, inoculated with koji, and then ground sunchokes in there as well. So you have even more sweetness. And then we just cut it with a little bit of vinegar as well, this vinegar here. And you don't need a ton of this. This is just going to add a little bit of extra sweetness.
Nice.
And kind of bring the dish together.
Beautiful. Just a little shellac on the top.
Yeah, just a tiny shellac.